Hey guys, this will be video 8 for the how to design build a 58 Explorer replica, and I want to dive right in because what I'm going to try to cover in this video is the installation of the neck to the body. I've already triple checked it and it's exactly what I want, so I should be able to do it with absolute ease. And I was thinking about taking the tape off and talking about the binding, but that's all kind of self-explanatory, and we'll cover that stuff in the future. And also, I just thought it would be a great opportunity to take advantage of, while it's still all taped up, that I'll just add some more tape here, and I'll show you about what I'm going to do in order to prep it to do the neck installation. Because the whole idea about the neck installation is obviously to not only get a really good clamp job straight down, but also I want to make certain that I get a really good pull. When I say pull, like into the body, because as I've covered in a lot of the last videos, I always have to remind myself that 90% of the people that are watching this video right now, they've never heard me talk about this. But what it boils down to, when you're doing a set neck installation, you're dealing with 7 sides to get them to fit properly. And I don't have a problem using any sort of, like a tight bond type glue. In other words, a water-based glue to glue a neck in. And this job right here would definitely qualify for a all tight bond glue in job, and it would be exceptional. It would be an exceptional build. But I really love the epoxy because of how the epoxy, the way I mix it, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. I'm literally going to be mixing it up on camera and talking about formulas and stuff like that. But the way I mix the epoxy, it dries very brittle. It's incredibly strong, just as strong as it would have been if it was just mixed 1-to-1. But I mix the ratios so it's guaranteed to dry very, very rock hard and very brittle, which gives exceptional tap tone. So when you're dealing with 7 sides, you got one side here. Let me use this little pointer here. I like using this little black soldering pointer or tip. But you got one side here, a second side there, a third side there, a fourth side there, fifth, sixth, and then the 7th, which is the end, which this is the least important down here, because if anything, you want this to be a little bit loose on the end, so any sort of glue or epoxy that is in there, especially if it's glue, you want it to be able to squeeze out. And you're going to see when I do this epoxy work, it's coated. It's coated all sides, both sides, in the mortise and on the tenon, but it's really hyper thin because the whole idea is to get a really exceptional fit based on no mill thicknesses that would distort the neck and cause it to be higher out of the body. So that's what I'm talking about when you're actually pushing all this epoxy out, getting ready to clamp it. You want this void back here to receive all the squeeze out. Okay. So with that said, so we got 7 sides that we're dealing with, and if anything, we can eliminate the 7 and just get it down to 6, because if you're gluing in with just a tight bond, and you had, I'm not going to create any hypotheticals, but if you had a little bit of a loose fit, you definitely can come in with your maple veneer shims, and it's far better to if you've got some looseness in there, find that looseness after you verified your center line. See, like back there, it's fairly loose, but that's a good thing, even around the corners, because that'll guarantee that we get exceptional squeeze out. But if you got any looseness along these sides right here, now is the time to clean that up. Got a little bit right there, but see, that epoxy will take care of that. And quite frankly, even if you had that little bit of looseness in that corner, the tight bond would be okay right there, because I've got such incredible fit along the sides back here that I'm not getting any, I don't have any need to do any shim work or anything like that. So there's nothing wrong with having to rely on, excuse me, having to rely on a shim in order to either clean up the center line or just clean up the actual fit. So that's and a lot of times there's nothing wrong with, like, sometimes I'll miss it and I might have cut a little bit too much off of that. Well, then you would just glue. What I would do there is tight bond glue a shim on the bottom, and then that way I would be able to clamp it, because I don't have a problem using the tight bond as long as I can have really a substantial clamping force between the top and the bottom. That will guarantee that I've got just that, an exceptional glue join, absolutely minimal amount of glue. All the squeeze out is just that, squeezed out. But when you've got 7 sides here, the only thing you can really do is put your 2 C-clamps up here, like one C-clamp here and one C-clamp here, clamping down, but that's all you're getting. There's no way that you can, clamp, squeeze this together. You're going to crush the body. So, am I being a little hypersensitive here? Yeah, but I think for good reason, because this is truly where the tone is maintained coming out of the neck going into the body. So, sure, you can clamp, you can have a real nice downward clamping force, but you don't have any clamping force on the sides or on these ends right here, unless you do what I'm going to show you, where I do a strap clamp, where I'm going to have a strap clamp all the way around the entire body, and it'll be a ratchet, and I'll ratchet, I'll click my way into assuring that body pulls, that neck pulls into the body really well. And I'm going to do all that real time on camera here within just minutes. So let's see, what else should I talk about? I may talk about it as I'm going along, but for the most part, the funky thing, because this things like this is what I was talking about, guys, when I was telling you, like, this, the Explorer is such a difficult guitar to build. It's almost as bad as the Flying V, because there's no way to really hold on to it. But what I do right here is I've got this Explorer tail out of a piece of Honduran that I went ahead and machined to fit the curvature. And this is where I'll use my jet glue or my CA glue, and I'll temporarily attach that in that position right there, so that when my trailer strap comes around this, it's not slipping off the body, or I don't have to, like, drive a nail into the body or anything like that to keep it from slipping. So let's do just that. Let's jet glue that or CA glue that temporarily into place, and then we'll just start putting it together. And it might be a little bit boring from time to time, but I think if you're really serious about building a custom guitar, this would be an incredibly valuable video, because I'll show you some tricks that I've never seen done before. And it doesn't mean it hasn't been done. It's just that I've never seen anybody talk about it or explain that reasoning. But again, it just all boils down to, we'll just let the job tell you what you need. I can get good clamping force, from the top to the bottom on my 2 C clamps. But how do I pull it in? Well, you would do your C clamps first, because if you put your strap clamps on first and then you start trying to strap clamp, you're most likely just going to distort the body, or either the neck's going to try to blow out of the body. It would probably try to blow out like this. But if you've got your C-clamps up there, but just gently tighten down, well, that epoxy that's in here will allow that neck to continue to slide in. And then I'm going to do something really interesting here, where I'm going to be doing a tight bond glue around these 3 sides, because once the mahogany goes up against the mahogany, I don't want the epoxy there, because the epoxy will create a very, very dark line, a glue line, and I don't want that. It probably would conceal itself after you're doing all the clear coat, but I don't want to give it the benefit of the doubt, because I know that the tight bond is so incredible about not leaving dark lines, because it is the yellow glue and just the traditional Type Bond. You don't need the Type Bond 2, which if that's all you got, then that's fine. But that is an incredible glue to use in any sort of visual glue up. That join right there, that's the Type Bond glue join right there, and they're virtually undetectable other than where you just see the change in the figure. Okay, let me get a drink of water. Let me pause and get a drink of water. I'll be right back. Okay, just as the body is not square and the strap will slip off of it, the headstock is definitely an issue because it's the 6 in the line. So obviously I'm going to have this strap coming across, going up the neck, and then going around the entire body, and then once I ratchet it. But otherwise, if I didn't have some sort of blocking up here, it's just going to try to slip off this in this direction. So usually what I do is just put some masking tape here, and I put a square or some sort of a straight block right here that just hangs over enough that allows the strap, in case I don't talk about this, because I've done this so many times on camera, I forget to talk about things, but that's what that's for. And it just keeps the strap on the center line of the project. And then probably the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to, because I did experience this once where I started ratcheting and the tape tore loose. So I'm going to put a block up here as a stop block, and then I'll tape both of these and temporarily glue them down, and that should guarantee that I'll be able to put sufficient ratcheting pressure on it to just hold it in. But quite frankly, before I do that, it's very likely that I'm going to pause the camera and just set the guitar body down on the floor, because I have a carpet runner under me, and then I'm literally just going to hold the two together and wipe it off with a wet cloth and just kind of monitor my glue joint, because I've got to keep my eye on that as that's going together. And what I'm talking about is as I've already clarified, these three sides, this side here, that side there, and that side there, glued in to the actual body. And it would be really easy if I was just doing this with a Type Bond, but and see, even after that glues together, obviously the glue will be squeezing out a little bit, and then I'll be wiping it off with a washcloth. But then there'll be more drum sanding that is done, minimal, just very, very minimal drum sanding. And when I say drum sanding, I'm talking like by hand, where I'm like using a drum with some 400 on it, kind of working those two together. And see, that's what I meant by my binding. I wanted my binding to be thick enough at that location that even if I sand off some of that width between my thumb and middle finger right there, that I've still got a guitar with binding on it. But I just want to make, by having that pulled in with the strap all the way around the body, it just guarantees that we're going to have a beautiful, beautiful join. And we've got such a really good fitment right here. Squareness from, this plane right here is so beautifully true with the body, and this has been shaped, by hand in order to fit that, to make certain that it's true. I don't even have to think anymore. I just push it up to that stop point and then make certain that it stays down in the mortise. And then, 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, we've got a guitar. 10 days later, when this epoxy back here dries, the sonic properties are just, they'll be off the charts. Okay. So, and in case I forget, I don't think I will, but went over to Woodcraft today over in south of Birmingham and found a really smoking deal for $17. I got some beautiful maple, figured maple, which is curly veneer, and this is super, super thin material. And that's what I'll be using on my next, I could probably get 10 or 15 guitars out of this, but I'll be using that veneer atop this headstock. Even though it will be painted, I love it because obviously it's maple, and when I sand it, it'll be just like glass slick. And we'll talk about that stuff in the future, but got a really good deal on that, and that'll be awesome for doing like jazz guitar work or just quite frankly anything, whether it's stained, excuse me, or primed and painted. So let's build a guitar. Call this jet glue. This is just a medium CA glue. And I was talking about calling it medium strength in one of the last videos. I think the last video, but it's just medium thickness is what it means. And I was calling it medium strength as if it's like there's a maximum strength and a strength that's just medium thickness. Consistency. And then there's thin, which is like water thin. Probably could have put just a little bit more glue on that. Let me put some pressure on this. Okay, that should be good. There's a few voids in there that I think the glue is staying wet, but should have dried by now. That's weird. It's not dry. That's weird. It's not working. I'm not getting a good glue on that. Sorry about that. Let me start over. Got a high spot right there. But see, those back there are kind of staying wet. Technical difficulties. It's so wasteful to put this much. It feels good right there. I mean, it feels like it's really bonding. But let me pause, and I'm gonna hold this for like 2 minutes or so, 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, put a clamp on it just to guarantee that doesn't surprise me later on, because you'd have the false sense that it's really secure, and then you start ratcheting away only to realize that all the glue is still wet, and then it just starts slipping out from under you. So that's the key about gluing in the neck. You don't want any surprises at all, nothing. You want to be so guaranteed the job's going to come together with ease that there's just no sense of concern. I wish I had have gotten the guy's name that I learned this trick from, but he was a guitar builder on YouTube, and I learned this probably 10 years ago, where the guy was getting ready to do fretboard work, and he had his template, and he said, I'm gonna put 2 pieces of masking tape on the 1 piece of masking tape on the fretboard and then 1 on the template, and I'm going to use the CA glue. And I remember thinking, there's no way, and you know what, that's going to hold. As soon as it hits the router, that's going to tear it loose and make a mess. And man, was I ever wrong. It was the most brilliant thing I had ever seen. I know you can use double-sided tape, but seeing as how this is about $2.98 a roll, this trust me, this works plenty. Oh, I better do this one first. This works exceptionally well from a cost standpoint, because this glue is $5.99 a little canister, And then, okay, so I've already got my glue on here. So in the long run, it just lasts. You get a lot more mileage out of it. This should work. Know that if you do this on a finished surface, the glue, once you put pressure on it, you'll get a much stronger bond, but that glue will actually penetrate through the bottom masking tape or both sides of the masking tape and actually contaminate your mahogany. So you wouldn't want to do that like on the back surface back here. I got into that glue because it would definitely make a mess. Well, I say that it depends on how much of it you're going to sand out. If it's finished, then take heed. Get my other clamp. Let's just use one of these. Okay, I'm gonna get another clamp. Okay, so obviously that should guarantee that once I'm pulling into that, it should make contact there, and all of that we'll call it double-sided tape. That's about what it boils down to, and should make for a very guaranteed build or operation. Okay, if I can torque that and it's not sliding, then it definitely won't slide when I do the strap clamp. Okay, I'll do the job dry, and that way you can kind of see the operation of, and it's always really good to do, work through the job. Meaning like a dry fit. It's pretty close. I need to get another 2-foot level for doing the videos. Okay, so obviously here's your ratchet. That side will be down, and we'll put a block up under it in a little while to protect the surface. But this is going to go up under the body like so. But the trick is fold that one back. And this is just your traditional trailer strap. Put that in there, and then if you pick up the body, that would fall down, and it would guarantee that you're not trying to do this crap right here, where you're fighting some sort of potential dent into the back of the body. Again, that's something I've never seen anybody do. So obviously I've just got the loop up here. I completely forgot. to change gears here. I forgot I've got to temporarily glue a block down there to receive the two C-clamps so I don't destroy the body. But it prompted me to just do a little bit of tape off. This is not necessary since I'm working with Titebond, but I'm going to do it anyway because if you were doing epoxy and you're gluing all this together and let's say you had too much epoxy in there and it started getting away from you, it's just one more thing that'll cause you to panic if you know that, oh gosh, epoxy's contaminating my prize wood back there. And again, it's not important here because this is Titebond, but this is just a good habit. Way overkill, but I'll do it anyway. Guess that's on the camera. I'm getting low on my CA glue. Oh no, actually no. Okay, so I think in this case it's best to just put it on here. I'm not going to clamp this one. Even though I've still got quite a bit of sanding to do on the back, there's no sense in introducing any contamination from the CA glue. And you can probably see that spot right there, and then there's a spot right there where when I was doing the binding cement, something happened. Oh, no, what it was, I was using some acetone from time to time, and the acetone ran down the side of the body, and actually the towel that it was laying on, the blue towel, it glued the blue towel to the back of the mahogany, and I had to wipe it clean and just get all the blue towel fibers out of it. But nonetheless, when I did that clear coat, it was really just to show the client that, hey, this is what the body will roughly look like once it starts, getting clear coat on it. But if I was just building this guitar for myself, I would have never put any of this nitrocellulose lacquer on here. It wouldn't have been necessary. I would have wet it just to see if it's pretty, and it is. Okay, so see how our strap is laying in place. Perfect. Just a scrap piece of plywood. It's paint grade. It's not really all that important, but it's just a good habit. Okay, so once I get this strap in here, I'll pick the guitar up and show it to you. But probably by now you probably can be able to read between the lines. Oh, I forgot my C-clamp. Okay, so the operation would be, you've got your epoxy in there, or you've got all your Titebond in there, and you've wet the sides here. And if you're working with Titebond, you want this to be a one-step operation. You don't want to be pushing this in here and then removing it and letting air attack any of this, even though that's okay in certain applications, not in this, because it's going to take you a minute or two to get all this clamping force in place. So I like the idea of having this relatively wet, but not too thick, especially right here, so that we're surely bedded and that we've guaranteed that we've really pushed out the excess, and we can feel the wood getting very close to making contact from wood to wood, and the only amount of chemical that's in there is just what's necessary. And then once we get to this point right here, then we're going to, let's go ahead and preload our C-clamp. So this is why I love working with a C-clamp, because you can use it like a micrometer. And then you realize you can get stuff out of your way that's not necessary. And again, this is only if you've got a really beautiful fitment. If you don't have your fitment true enough to trust, then you're not ready to glue in yet. But I know I can trust it. And then what you'll be doing is you'll only be putting just enough clamping force on it right now just to keep it from falling apart. Because once it's wet with either the Titebond or the epoxy, it's going to be a slippery mess. And it's going to very quickly, you might want to, if you're worried about your table, just know that there's going to be squeeze out and gravity's going to kick in. Stuff's going to start dripping and pouring. If it's epoxy, it's going to start dripping and pouring, and you just got to be prepared for that. And that's what I meant by I kind of like the idea of possibly just doing this off camera, but I don't think I will. I probably will do it on camera just to kind of show the operation. But now the next move would be start tightening it up. And I usually just, take it out until I feel it just get, connection. And then with your strap clamps, and as soon as you feel just the slightest bit of tension, slow down, don't rush it, because you want to assess and monitor what you're doing. And what's going to happen, you're going to have that folded up, straight up. We're on the center line back here of the body. At least we should be. And I'm looking at the center line of the neck. And I'm going to give it one more click. And then this is where you're going to have just a little bit of tension here. Let me go ahead and just show you the actual operation. And then I'm not sure if this one will reach. I think this one has to reach from over here. Yeah, this one has to reach from back here. And best I can remember, it seems like I do take this all the way down. And this just ends up being, I think it just ends up being tricky because you're fighting the, should have put this one in first. Let me see if I can make this work without making a fool out of myself. Apparently not. Again, I'm going to pick it up here in a minute and show you what I'm working with. I don't want to put a block down there because I don't want anything to be in my way visually of squeeze out. I'd rather just work around the actual, I say that. Yeah. Okay. So let me see if I can get all this crap out of the way. Let me see if it's where I want it first. 33 minutes. Okay. This is what you're going to be shooting for. See the importance of how I did the strap. It's hanging out of the way. We can see our tailpiece Explorer tail block doing its job, keeping the strap perfectly on center line. And just works really well. So basically with that said, then as you get ready to truly finish the job, you're kind of working in tandem where I've only kind of kissed these. I haven't tried to torque anything down, and with the epoxy you don't need to. You're going to be surprised. This is just going to be wrist tight, but where I'm truly going to fit the body, the neck, is I'm going to really, that's where I'm going to be putting some pressure on it, some force into it, but only enough to get about that right there. But you've got to work these in tandem because, see, the C-clamps are guaranteeing that the tenon is staying flat in the bottom of the mortise. And if you're staying flat in the bottom of the mortise, then your actual first three sides that I talked about are going to be guaranteed to bed really well and really beautifully. But you wouldn't want to get ahead of either operation, meaning you wouldn't want to get ahead of the strap clamping, or you wouldn't want to get ahead of the C-clamping, because if you put too much C-clamp force, you run the risk of it hanging and not getting to slide forward. Doubtful, because the epoxy is pretty slippery. But nonetheless, you get the drift. You got to work them in tandem. Damn, I hate these things sometimes. Okay. So I try to remember that the older clamp goes forward, and this is the. I don't think I'm gonna have any choice. I'm just really fighting that. Man, sometimes it's hell doing this stuff on camera. Okay, I gotta mix up some epoxy, and then we will finish the guitar. Doesn't fall off the table. Okay, all right, let's mix some epoxy. Okay, a lot of you guys have heard me talk about this before. This stuff is called T88. This is about the best product I've ever seen as far as a two-part epoxy goes. To my knowledge, this is the only two-part epoxy, or it used to be, that the aviation administration, like the Home Builder Aircraft Association, will permit. I may be wrong about that, but this stuff is incredible. You mix it in a 1-to-1 ratio, and if it's good enough to build home-built airplanes, meaning like wooden airplanes or fiberglass, then it's definitely good enough for anything else. And it's also exceptional for boat building and any industrial or quality project. However, when I was restoring my boat down in South Florida, I got to really studying how to mix this formula. And if you need a more flexible join, then you mix just a little bit more hardener into the resin, and it's still an incredible bond. I'm talking maybe 1 or 2% more, not much. You wouldn't be tripling it or doubling it, or well, you wouldn't even doing 10% more. It'll still be incredibly strong. It'll bond, but it'll have incredible flex. Excuse me, but to me, I don't want flex, because if I'm thinking about flex, to me that sounds more like a rubberized chemical. So when you mix this up, rather than a 1-to-1, with just a little bit less hardener, then and you can even see in my canister, there's always just a little bit more hardener left in relation to the resin, which is right here. You might not be able to see that. But when you mix about 95% to 98% hardener to 100% resin, you get an incredibly brittle, very strong, and I've cleaned up the shop. I threw a whole bunch of crap that was junk over here the other day away. But it's a really brittle, and it's an incredible join, and to me that brittle snap is going to give you a better tone. Okay, and I also use it because I play saxophone a little bit, and I'll buy old vintage alto and tenor saxophone mouthpieces, and I'll buy them, especially if they're damaged or broken or have been dropped and they're chipped real bad. Well, this is exactly what I use to repair my alto or tenor saxophone mouthpieces, and I'll do that exact same ratio where it is a little bit brittle. However, I'll put just a very small amount, like a toothpick tip, of the Mixol black resin tint, and then immediately it'll turn black, and it'll be like it'll look like a lacquered piano. And if I need a cream or a white or like the linen color, then I put a little bit of the Mixol white. No black, I can use the white. So in other words, I can tint these epoxies to colors as well. And once you learn how to work with that stuff, man, is it ever incredible. I should have turned that down because it's kind of cold. Try to keep this on camera. I'm bad about getting my hand right up in front, but I'll do the best I can to. All right, so I'm thinking about the size of the bottom. That's roughly the bottom of the pocket. And then here's one of the sides. And here's another one of the sides. And then here's just a little bit more for extra. Because once I put the hardener there, it should be plenty of material. And I was talking to a guy in South Florida that actually built experimental airplanes, and he was talking about how when they're doing really, and not that any joint in building an airplane is not important, but if they're doing something like incredibly structural, they're weighing the stuff, and they're looking at the weight of the hardener to the resin ratio. So it gets definitely scientific. But he said if you're just, because I was restoring a boat, and I asked him, I said, is it important that should I be weighing this? He's like, oh gosh, no, absolutely not. As long as you just do two lines side by side that are roughly the same size, and I've got the tip cut identical on both of these, so I know that as it's flowing out, I'm getting a fairly close ratio. But I just realized I made a mistake. I didn't do the. I'm gonna do a little bit more resin. I just did a 50-50. I just did a 1-to-1 mix. So there's my additional resin. But I say that to see this. You're about to witness in a minute. Once we see the color, I can tell what color it should be when it's wet, as far as when I've got a really good ratio mix. If it's just a real soft, like a soft blonde, then it's perfect. There's no way it's going to show just yet, but see that color right there? I hope you can. It's kind of obviously it has the amber to it, but it's definitely not like a vintage amber. It's just kind of a blonde. But the key is this is a 24-hour epoxy. As of just starting the mix here, I got about 35 to 40 minutes before it's to the point where it's going to be really difficult. If I had too much in there, it'll probably be too late to get it out. But it definitely gives you plenty of work time. I hope you can see that color. I'm not sure what this halogen light is doing, but see, it's a real soft amber. But it's definitely a creamy white. Okay, and then the reason I like using the bamboo skewer is I can pull that over and roll out from under. I need it to be higher up. I usually do it on the edge of the table. Okay, pull it over, roll out from under. Pull it over, roll out from under. pull it over, roll out from under it. I hope that showed up. Because what's going to really make the difference is once you get it in this little pile right here, this is where you want to mix for about 2 minutes minimum. And then after you mix, then I push it back into that little mound, and then I let it sit for about 2 minutes, and I'll pause, and then that's when it is kicking on a molecular level. Right now, I'm just getting it mixed, but if you immediately like spread this across the top and threw the wood down and clamped it together, you would have done it prematurely, and it's almost the equivalent of like putting it back in an airtight bottle. And I'm only repeating what a guy in South Florida taught me. He was a professional boat restoration guy and painter, and just really, really brilliant. He worked with this stuff, in structural applications and in just, finish applications as well. But he was talking about the importance of, um, let's see, right now it's kicking. Yeah, it's kicking. Yeah, that's it. The kicking and setting. Right now, the two are kicking on a molecular level, but they're obviously not setting yet. Once it starts setting, that's when it's truly beginning to harden. And with the 24-hour epoxy, it truly does not start setting until about an hour and a half to 2 hours after the application, and then it's not really fully cured until about 3 to 7, 10 days, according to your humidity and stuff like that. Okay, but one thing I've learned that seems to make it a little bit better, because this bamboo skewer is so chintzy, and I'm doing such a large puddle of epoxy here. Sorry, losing control because I'm trying to keep it on the camera and keep my hand out. I usually take this little flat spatula and really press it together. That really guarantees that if they haven't really bonded and started kicking in there, you're really pressing the hardener and the resin together. So pop. I wouldn't recommend working with anything that is a quick dry epoxy, because even though I've done this numerous times, I don't panic or anything. But I don't feel panicked at all or rushed. But I love the fact that I could go make a pot of coffee right now, and I'm not going to lose control of this guitar. So I can take all the time in the world to stay clean and stay in order. And I've already cleaned all this out with lacquer thinner to make certain that there's no debris in there. I've already done that, so both of those are nice and clean. But what I like about the bamboo skewer is I can roll it back into that pile, stack it back up, and then hopefully I'll be able to show you the perfect color. And I can already tell this would be perfect for doing like a hard mouthpiece for a saxophone. I would know that it would be super, super brittle once it's dry. See, even if you go up under your epoxy, I'm rolling that bamboo skewer counterclockwise, and I'm just rolling straight. I'm rolling right out from under it. With that spatula, you can't get away from it. You start pulling the crap, and to me, it's easier to control it with the bamboo skewer because I can, as I say, roll out from under it. Okay, so I'm going to pause and I'm going to let that sit for about 2 to 3 minutes and kick on a molecular level. And if you were mixing this in a cup, and it was like in the bottom of a cup and you're mixing it up, the cup would get literally so hot you could hardly hold it. It's amazing what starts happening. It starts getting really, really hot. And I don't understand, I don't know what causes that, but I know that it does. I've never seen it smoke before, but Larry was telling me, the guy that's the boat pro, he was like, "Yeah, man, I've seen that stuff smoking. I don't know if it would combust, but I wouldn't want to be around if that started taking place." So let me pause, and then I'll get control of the table, and then within 5 minutes, we'll be having a neck glued in, hopefully. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes, maybe less. But the next and most important thing you can do is actually mix this one more time. And that will just guarantee that it is truly mixed up properly. And since you will be working with Titebond, which is water-based, and you'll be working with the epoxy, which is chemical-based, then you're going to need cleaning cloths for each application. So I have a moist dishcloth, and moist with water for wiping any of the runaway Titebond. And then I've got a little tin over there that has a small piece of paper towel that's already saturated with some lacquer thinner, because what's about to happen, as is happening right now, I've already got crap on my fingers, and I can't work in gloves, even like rubber gloves. I just can't do it. Now, if I'm doing like really large type epoxy projects, sure, you can, but I need to be able to feel everything, and unfortunately, it's unhealthy because you're wiping your fingers with lacquer thinner. Okay, so doesn't matter neck or the tenon or the pocket. So we'll just do the pocket. Well, and all I'm doing here is literally, all I'm doing is just trying to tint the surface. I'm just trying to smear it down into the pocket. I'm not building any mill thickness at all. If it builds a little bit of mill thickness naturally, well, then get rid of it, because all you're doing right now is forcing some of the chemical into the grain, and then we will rely on our installation. Don't forget that the three sides on the end are going to be receiving Titebond, so you want to keep the epoxy away from that end out there, especially like any sort of spillover. Do the best I can to keep this on the camera, but this thing's hell to hold with one hand. It's pretty heavy. It gets real tail heavy. So you're just coating the surface. Again, this is why I like the 24-hour cure time. Got all the time, I got all the work time in the world. That should be in the camera. If it was some sort of surface that you definitely needed to protect, then I would have taped every bit of that off for some reason, but this is not. It's not that important because it's paint grade. Okay, I'm gonna have to put it to where I can see what I'm doing. So you get the idea. I'm just using a little spatula to coat the area, and then staying way away from the end out there. The key will be how you install it, because if you loaded this tenon full of epoxy and then started pushing it in, well, man, it's going to get caught on these corners and squeeze out and roll out, and then it will contaminate the area that was actually intended to have all the tight bond. And will the tight bond and the epoxy make contact? Yeah, a little bit, right there at the corner. But they're not going to be working in tandem, or nor are they going to be bonding. They're just going to be like oil and water pushing one another aside, and just doing your own job. And I do the tight bond last. Because it's the one that is most time sensitive. That is way too much. And see, I just stuck my finger into that sticky platform. Let's see if that's on camera. Should be good. Just take note the way I push the tenon into the body in a little while, in case I forget, because I'll probably be pretty hyper focused. But I have a tendency to just go fairly far back and just drop straight down and just do some real gentle forward and back wiggling, and then really push it, drive it home in order to get the tight bond to seal the three ends. Again, right now I'm only focusing on trying to seal these four sides, and I've got just a little bit more than I really want, but it's okay. Okay, so the question is, will it even need any more? And truth be known, that's enough. That really is probably enough. I'm gonna put just a little bit more, but the question is, when I go straight down, and I planned on having about a half-inch gap max, absolutely max. And quite frankly, I'm probably going to come in here with my pinky and just guarantee that I don't have any sort of excess in there that I don't need. And see, there really wasn't any there that could have caused any sort of issue. In case I haven't clarified the reason for the tight bond and the epoxy, I did at the beginning of the video. The tight bond creates such a beautiful join when you're butt joining two different boards together. And the whole idea about this build is this neck. I had made the statement that this neck came out of the body right here. That was incorrect. The neck came out of the body up here. Okay, so but it's in line with it, but we're carrying this neck part of the board over to this location and then driving it home. And everything about these growth rings, they are in the same orientation as to how they grew in the wild. And that's what I meant by you want to really take the time to join these two as best you can to really, hopefully it'll just really pop and be absolutely beautiful. I don't see why it won't. It should be fine. And there's part of me, man, I'm really tempted to not put any more epoxy, but I am. I'm going to put just a little bit more. And apparently I mixed up too much. But that's all right. I'd rather have too much than not enough. And where do I want to put it? I'll put it right here. This is where I'm building my mill thickness, but not in that corner. I hope the camera doesn't cut off. It seems like it's been going to about an hour and 15, 20 minutes without any sort of issue. And I've erased most all of the frivolous videos that were in my phone. So we should be able to go straight to the finish line, even if it's an hour and a half. I hope not. I hope it doesn't take that long. Speaking of, let me check this out. All right, it's not bad. We're just past an hour. Okay. I have a problem putting a little bit extra back here because that's where it's going to be squeezing out. That is plenty epoxy. And I am really all I'm going to do, I didn't put any additional on the bottom. I just want to kiss it and see what it does. Yeah, that's perfect. That's plenty. Okay, this will be an exceptional build. Okay, again, I haven't put the tight bond on there yet. I could go make a pot of coffee if I had to. My stress level is pretty much zero, other than the fact I mixed up way too much epoxy. But we'll see. We might find some sort of project for it after the camera's off, or repair a broken tool of some sort. How would I want to do this? I've never done it this way, but I don't see why it would be a problem. To just go ahead and put the tight bond on one of these sides. I don't think I'm going to try to put tight bond on both of them. I don't know. Let me just do the job. I'll just figure it out as I go. But the way I'm going to do this, okay, if I go ahead and put this in and then get the clamps up there. Now, what I was planning on doing was physically putting this together and then probably having to pause the camera and then go ahead, in other words, just do every bit of it by hand and just hold it in place for about a minute or two. And then what I'll do is then I'll reach up with the C-clamps and get at least the one C-clamp back here that will guarantee that it doesn't fall out of the body if I have to sneeze. But then it'll just be holding it in place, but the tight bond will have already squeezed out and I will have cleaned that up. So then I'll be able to chill out. The C-clamp will be holding it in place. I'll put my ratchet clamps up there and everything. I may have to pause to do that because I'll go around the other side of the table and at least get it set up. But all I'm saying is I'm going to do it by hand first, and then that's probably how I would recommend doing it. If I find that was a mistake, I'll let you know in a few minutes or after the video is about to end. So let's do just that. Let's put some Tite Bond on here. Never seen anybody do this. I don't see why there's anything wrong with it though. Even though if those two surfaces might meet, let me do this off. I wish I could do this on the camera, but I've got a little bit more Tite Bond than I need, so I'm gonna see if I can get that crap, some of that crap off there. No, it's not too bad. I hope that's on the camera. I'm just looking at my jog. What's going to happen? I mean, it's inevitable that somewhere inside the Tite Bond and the epoxy are going to come crashing together, but they will just dry independent of one another, as I've already covered. But see, that'll guarantee that I've got a really beautiful glue joint on the outside. And if anything, since I got too much, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing this at all. Yeah, not at all. That should be on the camera. And that will guarantee that the sides, as you're supposed to, when you glue, two boards together, you're supposed to glue both sides. I might be taking off too much on that other side though, so I may have to put some more back on the neck. Okay, what I'm going to be doing is just try to get in the camera, because the cool thing is I'm in no hurry. I'm just going to go up about 1/4 of an inch away from the end. In other words, there's about 1/4 of an inch gap, maybe 3/16 of an inch. Now, I'm not going to let the Tite Bond touch yet. It did touch just a little bit on this side, but I'm just working the tenon down at the bottom. Now I'm just going to push it up into the body. Just hold it for a second. And hopefully there's some Tite Bond squeeze out over here. Yeah, that's beautiful. So I'm going to take a hell of a chance here. Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. Look at that. Isn't that cool? So we got phenomenal perimeter squeeze out on the Tite Bond. It's a little bit dry right there, but I guarantee you, once that clamp goes in there, just wait. There'll be a little bit of squeeze out there, I hope. If not, that's cool, because we got a great. Once the strap clamp goes in there, that'll really glue really well. So that's some pretty cool stuff right there, to get to do that on camera and not lose your cool. So again, let's reach up here. Tell you what, let me take a bit of a chance. Where's mine? Nothing wrong with having your, I don't think that'll reach. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud. I need my, I could have sworn I had the, let me pause. Oh, here it is. Yeah, sorry, I put it on the side table there. Uh-oh. Let me start over. Okay. This is probably the most important operation right now, just to get this back clamp in. Now I can relax and see I only put kissing pressure there, and now I can truly push it in. So what I'm gonna do, it keeps slipping out, so let's take advantage of that. Okay, she wants to slide out. Beautiful. Okay. Now I just did just enough clamping force to keep it from falling. What I was going for, I was trying to get to this, to get some of this crap off, so it doesn't end up being a runaway and making a mess. Okay. Now, I'll kiss that a little bit. It's like I'm right on the center. Oh, that felt incredible. One click, check it for flatness. It's pretty tight already. And I've got an incredible squeeze out over here. I'll see if I can show this. Let me check the time. 1 hour and 13 minutes. Okay, so where are we? We're on the center. Close enough for rock and roll. And we are excellent up here. And I've already shown you this operation, so there's no sense in trying to pick it up, but I do need to pick it up to assess my squeeze out, because at this point, it's 100%. I hope you can see in there, but what I can see is perfect. Okay, so at this point, we got our moist cloth. Get some of that tight bond off. And then inspect your join, and it's incredible. And I haven't even torqued it yet. Whoa. As that epoxy squeezes out, it starts getting loose. I'll really pull it into the body. Oh yeah, beautiful. Hope that's on the camera. There's no benefit by getting this cleaned up. It just keeps it from, dripping all over the table. But as long as you wipe off just enough to keep it from making a mess, keeps the job under control. And what's going to happen, since this is pulling in, any epoxy that might be in there, it might squeeze out a little bit, and you're just going to have to kind of monitor these clamps right here. I'm literally, is that on the camera? Yeah, I raised the camera. I'm just doing wrist tight, but to guarantee that that is staying bedded, because what's happening very quickly, this tight bond is gluing this neck in place, and I've got to make certain that it's, where I want it, because the epoxy is definitely not going to be drying for hours. If you had some sort of horrific nightmare, the epoxy, you could pull the epoxy apart within hours, 3 to 4 hours. You could still get it apart with relative ease. But looks great. It's really beautiful. Okay, so with that should be a video. And can't think of anything else to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and kill the camera because I want to get out my magnifying glass, and I'm going to really identify that those joints are where I truly want them, because right now would be the time to discover some sort of issue that is there that you wish wasn't there. But it's not, I don't think I have, or I tell you what I'll do. Let me pause and let me do that. And if there is an issue, I'm going to show you how you would take every bit of this loose and remove the neck and clean it and flip off the lights and come back tomorrow and do the job tomorrow. So that's what I love about the epoxy, is if you run into a problem, you can just back up and punt and do the job again. But if you had all this glued in with tight bond and you had some sort of issue, then it's a different story. So let me pause. Okay, it's perfect. Looks really, really good. So with that said, there's really nothing else to talk about because I talked about everything enough as far as during the dry fitment, as far as what's actually taking place here. So there's nothing else to talk about. But anyway, I appreciate you guys dropping in. And I'm obviously going to monitor it and keep an eye on it. And just the most important thing is to just verify that these are not loosening up, because if any epoxy were to squeeze out, which it's not, because I put such a small amount in there, that but if you had a little bit too much epoxy in there, these will loosen up once that epoxy takes the path of least resistance and squeezes out back there in that back channel. Okay, so I hope that was educational and enjoyable for you. And if anything, I can't think of what's next other than I'm gonna let this dry for a day or two, and then in the next video, I'll be removing the tape and we'll be scraping binding. The only thing I didn't talk about that was the most important is as I'm watching this neck go in, the only thing I was monitoring was this point right, this plane here to that join right there. And it looked identical to the way it looked when it was dry on both sides. So that's really all I was having to monitor as I was putting the whole neck in. I already knew that the center line was true. So it's not like I was having to verify that I was staying on center line, as that ought to make perfect sense. But once I saw that those two bedded properly and it was staying perfectly true on this plane, excuse me, then that let me know that it's a guitar. It's an exceptional build. So anyway, appreciate you guys dropping in, and I'll see you in the next video.